Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. I will explain why President Trump has completely annihilated, obliterated, and destroyed the modern Democratic Party. And there's no vitriol or venom in this analysis. They tried to indict him, imprison him, ban him from every state. There were attempts on his life. But I'm not gleeful as much as I am thoughtful, or I'm trying to give you reasons and a thoughtful analysis as to why today's Democratic Party will change, must change, has to change after Trump's overwhelming victory. So if there's a functioning brain cell within the Democratic Party, it won't be the same Democratic Party moving forward. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. We'll get to the analysis throughout Fox and Fox Business in a second. I want to just show you really quickly. He won the popular vote. About 5 million ahead of Harris. So 5 million Americans. That's with 24/7 negative media coverage. So you have to understand and take that within the context. Take it within context, or understand the context. He had 24/7 negative media coverage. He'll go ahead and win. You can see he's up in Arizona. He's up in Nevada. So we're looking at 300 and what? About 312 or so electoral college votes. Yeah. Okay. 311 or so electoral college votes. He won the popular vote by 5 million Americans. That means every single thing that you've heard from a liberal or Democratic Party or progressive or left-leaning pundit has amounted to garbage, the same garbage that Biden called supporters of Trump. Nothing they have ever said about politics, the analysis of Trump, Make America Great Again movement, nothing has been accurate. It's all been just a whole bunch of nonsense. Paul, thank you to my super chat. Thank you. Paul, thank you very much. Then you have the Senate, and Republicans gained 3 in the Senate, and I don't think it's done yet. So, and Democrats lost 3 seats. Republicans gained 3 seats. The House gained 1 seat, but I believe you're going to see a whole bunch more in terms of victories for the House. Governors. There are more Republican governors. Okay, so getting back to Trump, he defeated them in the popular vote. And the Electoral College. Paul Bartlett, thank you. They made a huge deal about the popular vote. There were articles written, probably hundreds of articles, I think maybe even books written about how the popular vote is really what should decide the presidency, not the Electoral College. Well, I obviously think the Electoral College is needed. You don't want the future of the country to be decided by New York and Los Angeles, because then the entire country will face the same problems as New York and Los Angeles forever, which is what we did, which is what we experienced for 4 years. High inflation, high interest rates, crime throughout the country. The entire United States of America essentially experienced what blue cities like Los Angeles and New York experienced. But anyway, the point is, he won the popular vote. He retook the Senate. He increased his lead in the House. He has the trifecta. The Democrats, they had media prop them up for the past 7-8 years. Nobody trusts media. About 30% of Americans trust media. About 70% of Americans don't. Nobody cares about Hollywood. Nobody cares about media. And people are just looking. Inflation, is it up? Is it down? Interest rates, up, down. Do we have invasions? Are there wars? Is there instability in the world? Trump won because he was a good president. That's why he won. That's why he won. Paul Bartlett, thank you. Thank you, Paul. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated. Let's get started. Paul, thank you. We'll get to Democrats. The current Democratic Party stands for nothing. They don't stand for Medicare for all, single payer. It's not feasible. These things aren't feasible. They sound really great. They're not feasible. That's why they lost. They don't stand for any immigration reform. They didn't make that a priority, and they then they promoted a bill that would give amnesty, not prevent people from coming in. They didn't want a wall. Their solutions were only liberal Democratic Party solutions, and it didn't work. The economy is terrible for most Americans. Inflation is, most things are 20 to 30% higher than they were when Trump left. We have instability throughout the world. You can see what's taking place in Europe, the Middle East. The economy is not good. Foreign policy is a catastrophe. The border is a huge national security issue. Democrats stood for nothing. They passed trillion-dollar bills that did nothing for the country. They didn't even run. Did you hear ever Kamala Harris talk about Build Back Better or the Inflation Reduction Act? Then they said, well, we offered a solution. So what? Trump offered a solution too, build a wall. But let's get to this. Hit subscribe. Paul Bartlett, thank you so much. Paul in Australia, I can never thank you enough. Such a wonderful, awesome supporter of this program. And Paul, thank you so much.
The Fox News decision desk can now officially project that Donald Trump will become the 47th president of the United States.
The former president's comeback will be complete with a win in Wisconsin, a state that he narrowly lost 4 years ago. He is now the second president in U.S. history to win non-consecutive terms. The first was Grover Cleveland in the late 1800s. Senator J.D. Vance will become the 50th vice president of the United States. Voters express deep frustration with the Biden administration, and former President Trump and the future President Trump overperformed in urban areas, particularly with men, proving that the strategy that they doubled and tripled down on over the course of the last few months absolutely succeeded and brought him back to the White House.
47th president of the United States.
The only playbook Democrats have is Trump is a bad human being. He's a bigot. But you know what? He got a greater percentage. He got more people of color voting for him than any Republican ever. Okay? How do you explain that? If you're a Democrat, how do you explain that? The modern Democratic Party is done. It's completely... Trump took a bulldozer and completely destroyed it. I mean, if you want to get into it, he's really not supposed to. I mean, thank God he's here. There is a firefighter who lost his life protecting his family. And the first attempt on Trump's life led to a man losing his life and others being injured. And there's a zero investigative journalism regarding that. And I wonder why. Why is there no investigative journalism at The Atlantic or the New York Times or the Washington Post? Don't they want to get to the bottom of who tried to take the life of a two-term president? Oh, that's right. That's right. Media is, the average American does not trust media because they know it's they're in the tank. If media had a colonoscopy, you'd have journalists and writers and cable news hosts right up there, enjoying themselves. And it's like the average American cares about inflation, interest rates, wars. Trump talked about that. We did not have these problems with Trump. This is not rocket science. I'm trying to explain why the modern Democratic Party is really no longer a viable political party. They don't talk about the things that they helped create, like inflation, like high interest rates. They just pretend that it's price gouging. The doublespeak is unbelievable. Well, it's not inflation, it's price gouging. We're going to go after these corporations. Well, then why didn't you go after corporations that were price gouging? Oh, that's right, because you created inflation, and you're lying to people. Inflation went up to 9%. Then they raised interest rates. Then mortgage rates doubled. We had record low poverty with Trump. We had record highs in household median income with Trump. We had mortgage rates at around 3%. Then they went close to 7%. Again, we had mortgage rates at around 3% in 2018. We had mortgage rates at around 3% in 2018, and you have 20 and 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds voting Democrat complaining they can't afford a home. Then the same mortgage rates went to about close to over 6 to 7%. And still people vote Democrat because Trump was mean. And this is not sustainable if you're a political party. The Democratic Party relies on people who just care about image and Hollywood and, what their friends think. But for the average American, they look at their pocketbook and they say, I don't want to go ahead and spend $300 or $150 to $200 at the grocery store. We didn't do this with Trump in office. Things were more expensive. Then they shut down economies 4 years ago. And Democrats were at the forefront of this. And a lot of people still have not come back. Financially, debt is through the roof. And that debt started when Democrats pushed to shut down economic activity. And I said on this channel, Trump would regain the Oval Office. I said on this channel, Biden would resign. I didn't think it would be Harris, but I said Biden would resign, Trump would regain the Oval Office, and the second that Biden won the presidency, so to speak, or no, the second that he won this presidency, we'll just say, I said, you know what? There goes foreign policy. And then instability throughout the world.
Former President Trump now defeats Vice President Kamala Harris, who entered this race just over 100 days ago. And for Democrats, they were projecting the possibility of running the table with battleground states. David Plouffe with the Democratic campaign of Harris campaign suggested that just yesterday. Now it is possible that Donald Trump runs the table with these states and builds on a big landslide electoral win. We don't know where the popular vote is going to finish out, but we do know that he will be going back to the White House. And with him, Brit Hume, will be a lot of changes because he will have been there once and will know what he wants to do.
Special counsels, that's another reason that the modern Democratic Party, he's going to, Donald Trump will play a beautiful song by James Brown, the great, legendary godfather of soul, James Brown. He's going to play that song, The Big Payback. The Big Payback is one of the great songs of all time, and Trump's going to have that on continual loop. That's all he's going to play every single day. He's going to wake up in the morning, put James Brown, The Big Payback. And everyone who broke the law, if you knew as a government official that Trump didn't work with the Kremlin, yet you still tried to pin him as a traitor or an operative, well, that's breaking the law. You know how when they say, well, Trump knew that he wasn't being cheated? No, he didn't. Actually, most Americans now are kind of seeing what's going on. Oh, look at the popular vote. How was it that Biden is what, 10, 12, 15 million 15 million Americans more popular than President Obama, who was one of the most popular presidents in the history of the country, and just in terms of his 2008 campaign? I don't think he was a great president at all. He helped destroy, with a failed intervention, the country of Libya. That was his biggest mistake. They say Trump is a bad person. Trump didn't destroy a country. His predecessors did. Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld, they were even worse. But you tell me how Biden gets 15 million or 12, 13, 14 million more than President Obama. Anyway, that's another story. That's water under the bridge. We had to suffer through 4 years of Democrat rule. Let's continue.
You know, he often accounts for the fact that he had so much turnover in his first term, in his term as president, by the fact that he really know Washington, and he was new to this realm that he had come to win the presidency in, and he promises us that now he knows whom he wants to hire. Now he knows the kind of people he wants to have around him. A lot of people are saying that means a lot of very experienced people around Washington will be ruled out, and maybe they will. But it's going to be very interesting to see the kind of people he reaches out to and reaches out for in the days and weeks ahead as he.
And you've seen you can see the joy on all these people's faces. Think about the angst and the, all that this campaign has.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
I woke up this morning feeling relieved. I did not feel the euphoria that that we all should have felt, because it's been such a grueling process. If you really care about, it shouldn't be grueling, but it's been such a long, arduous process of dealing with the apoplectic, hysterical meltdown every single day, 24/7, of media, of government, current and former U.S. officials. This nonsense, this pure propaganda from the same people who pontificate about truth. How many articles were written about Trump? People in the know, current and former U.S. officials. Oh my God. The New York Times even had an article where there was an anonymous person saving us from Trump's most base impulses. They made up nonsense. Just a complete liberal democratic fantasy. And then they lost everything politically. The House, the Senate, the popular vote, the presidency. And now there are going to be special counsels, almost certainly. And he's going to do exactly what they did to him. They indicted him under the most absurd pretext or reasons. And if you look at what was done to him, he did not believe that it was fair and above board 4 years ago. He did not have a chance at any. They say, well, where's the evidence? Well, he didn't have a chance to do what the Mueller probe did, which was subpoena and have people testify under oath in Congress. Never had any of that stuff. People never testified in Congress. He never had a chance to collect records of, any, but that's another story. He's going to go after the same people who try to set him up and frame him. And there's a lot of things that went on. You talk about collusion. There's probably a great deal of activity between, you just say, it's likely. There's a likely union of a bunch of different people who shouldn't have been working together to go after Trump. And there was likely collusion between the Biden presidency and local prosecutors. That's one example. The other example is the people who set him up and framed him and called him a Kremlin operative. So there's a whole lot of reasons why he would start a special counsel, but that's another live stream.
We've got some action because we're hearing the former president is going to his party in West Palm, but we're also seeing Cedric Richmond in Harris Walz's campaign co-chair speaking at the Harris Walz party. Let's listen.
Votes to count. We still have states that have not been called yet. We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted, that every voice has spoken. So you won't hear from the vice president tonight.
Why not? That's just what Hillary Clinton did. Why not? They talk about how Democrats always, they're the protagonists in their adventure, fantasy world they create where there's so much better of a human being than Trump. Well, if they're so much better, why did Hillary Clinton, why did Kamala Harris not address supporters when they lost? And no, they didn't. Like, Clinton and Democrats never truly conceded. They accused Trump of being an operative, and that still hasn't been addressed. The Durham probe during Biden's administration was not enough, according to Trump and anyone watching, what's truly going on. Why didn't Kamala Harris address her supporters? That doesn't make any sense. I would have respected. I would have said, you know what? That's a good thing. Harris did a very noble, good. Why she could have said, you know what? We're going to still go on. We're still going to still try and win. Why? Why didn't Hillary do it? It's just, you know what? They are always expecting to win because they have media, but now nobody trusts media. So now what do they have? Their ideology? No. Democratic Party ideology is warped and twisted, very bizarre ideology.
But you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation. So thank you. We believe in you. May God bless you. May God keep you. And go HU and go Harris. Thank you all.
Cedric Richmond, the campaign co-chair, and it's hard to ignore the fact that this is the mirror image of 2016 when John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign chair, came out around the same time of night and said, we're still counting votes and you won't hear from her tonight, you'll hear from her tomorrow.
Which is stunning. Go HU, by the way, is Howard University. That's where the campaign headquarters party is. But the vote is still going. They're not stopping. The counting is still continuing.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And Trump got the popular vote.
I want to thank the millions of hardworking Americans across the nation who have always been the heart and soul of this really great movement. We've been through so much together, and today you showed up in record numbers to deliver a victory like no other.
There it was, 2:30 in the morning. President-elect Donald Trump expressing gratitude in that speech. His win, just one part of a red wave. Republicans also flipping the Senate, now taking control of the upper chamber, maybe the House as well. We don't know. Too early to make a call. Martha and Brett were up late last night. I think cumulative sleep time was probably 90 minutes.
Early this morning.
You guys as well.
Yeah, job well done to both of you.
Congratulations to you guys.
Thank you.
Bill, that board was quite something.
I appreciate that.
It like a ship.
He's like the conductor.
We're the tiller out there, right? Right now, Trump stands at 71 million cumulative votes. Harris is at 66 million, which is down significantly from.
It's now 75 million to 67 million. Okay? Harris did not even make the Democratic primary. Okay? Now, the question is, why didn't Harris make the Democratic primary? You have a California senator and former district attorney. Why didn't Harris make the Democratic primary? It's a very simple question. I'm just going to be annoying and ask it again and again. Why didn't, to my viewers, if you stumble upon this and you can't stand Trump and you're just so upset that Trump won, why didn't Harris make the Democratic primary? Why? Why? Biden did. Andrew Yang did. I mean, why didn't Harris make the Democratic primary? It's a rhetorical question because this individual, the politician, was not popular enough within the Democratic. Harris was not even popular enough within the Democratic Party. That's why. Which explains why she could never have become nominee. When they gave the nomination, to Harris, that was yet another example of corruption within the Democratic Party. The fact that people Democrats who voted Harris don't care. The reason you lost was because you don't care. When Democrats cheated Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders lacked a spine and a will to actually point that out. He hasn't even said, oh, by the way, I was cheated. I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. We had a great economy, great foreign policy with Trump, exactly what I wanted with Bernie Sanders in 2016. I was a little bit more to the left, obviously. But for the most part, 2016 Bernie Sanders and 2024 Trump, there's a direct line. Bernie Sanders didn't even address the fact that Democrats cheated him. Trump would never even give up the fact that he felt railroaded. And you had very likely Trump has a great many points there. There was no Mueller probe looking into 4 years ago. There was a Mueller probe looking into the absurd allegations created by Clinton and Democrats with a Steele dossier that was complete nonsense. Another thing, Bill Maher, he's, great comedian, very intelligent, on the left, understands why Democrats lose, but still has the, TDS that prevents him from actually voting Trump. People like Bill Maher are very intelligent, very wealthy. They don't know what the Steele dossier is. They don't know what it is. They don't realize that if the tables were turned and Trump and Giuliani purchased a dossier to set up and frame Harris or set up and frame Biden or anyone else, they would never let that pass. But because it happened to Trump, it's okay. The same people who pontificate about Trump's personality are the same people who thought the Steele dossier was real. Same people who say, oh, you can cheat Biden. What happened to Biden was 20 million times worse than what happened to Bernie Sanders. And that's the issue. They're so used to this arrogance and hubris. They don't understand. Harris didn't even make the Democratic primary. How did she become nominee? Oh, Joe Biden was the most popular candidate of all time in American history. If that makes sense to you, very likely you're an imbecile. He was the most popular candidate in American history by the numbers. I'm not making that up. He won the popular vote by a far greater number than any other president. Do you think Joe Biden was the most popular? And you want to talk about Harris? Biden didn't even get past Iowa until 4 years ago. Who are you kidding? Democrats have put on this charade for the longest time. They put on this charade and they expected everyone to just fall in line. But the average American isn't a Democratic loyalist. Like the far left, they get cheated all the time by Democrats. They don't care. They just go back and vote Democrat. Partly because the far left believes in ideas that aren't feasible. They sound good. Green New Deal, Medicare for all, these are good ideas that sound nice, but they're not feasible. There's not even a single payer within a state, much less a country of 350 plus million people. And so studies have shown it's not possible, but then they don't like those studies. Then those studies are run by conservatives. But the studies run by liberals, they should be worshipped. Anyway, let's continue.
The 81 million that Biden won 4 years ago, largely mail-in vote, COVID pandemic, etc. He could take this by, currently a 5 million raw vote margin.
So listen, there's a couple of messages here. One is, this is a pushback. This is the majority of Americans saying we are not into the woke stuff. We are hurting because of the economy. We don't like the immigration situation. And you could talk about whatever else about this election, but those were what they said in every poll were important. And the fact that, pollsters were that off, that, it could be this electoral college and popular vote win and 7 battleground states and coattails that take all of these Senate and House cases, seats. It's truly amazing.
I remember in 1994, I was I'm not even going to tell you, I was a junior-ish reporter. And in 1994, in Republican sweep, like almost everything, right? And what Kellyanne was just saying is that in every state, it moved to the right just a little bit. And I just want to ask you this. If you could pull up call for number 2, there were Trump gains in deep blue states where he didn't win them, but look at New Jersey. This is your, we both have houses there and loved living there. Harris is only +5. Biden was +15 in 2020.
Look at Illinois.
That's
They couldn't go with Biden because of, and God bless him, this is just being, there were physical and cognitive issues. Yet he was the most popular candidate of all time. Those issues existed 4 years ago. Okay. You have to suspend logic and reason to believe the absolute farce that Democrats Democrats impose this absurd nonsense upon their Democratic Party loyalists, their voting bases, the voting base of the Democratic Party. They just deal. Bernie Sanders cheated. Oh, well, it's internal party politics. Remove Biden. It's party politics. There are no party politics with Trump other than Republicans, betraying him left and right for the past 8 years and then blaming Trump for losing. Republicans in Arizona, Republicans in Georgia, Republicans in other states 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Then you had Mitch McConnell. You had Paul Ryan joining Democrats to investigate Trump on absurd nonsense that he was a Kremlin operative. These are all stupid lies that you'd have to be a complete imbecile to believe. That's why, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. You lost every conceivable political objective. House, Senate, the House soon, Senate, presidency, popular vote. And now you're going to get legislation that Democrats will fret over. Now you're going to get special counsels. Now you're going to get Democrats indicted, and then it's going to be Trump's an authoritarian, despot, tyrant. Before it's, well, baby, he was indicted. It must be true. Everything they did to Trump, he's going to put James Brown, the big payback. Just go listen to it right now on YouTube. It's awesome. And they couldn't, like I said, they would have probably done a little better in terms of the popular vote with Biden, just because he's been around a long time. But they couldn't, because they installed somebody who, again, you have to ask, how is all of this even possible? Because Democrats for 8 years said, do not believe your lying eyes. You must listen to our narrative. Why? Because De Niro and Kimmel and all the smart experts and a consensus of liberal Democrats who also happen to be historians and experts said, believe us. And the country had enough of it.
That's where I was, right? Like, it's just remarkable. Yeah. New York.
Yeah.
Biden was +23. She's +11.
I mean, look at the Bronx, look at Queens, New York. This is something I think that President Trump felt in his gut, that there was movement in those areas. And you look.
I love New York. Okay, a family in New York. I love New York. Giuliani was there just 20 years ago. What happened to New York? Okay, you had a Republican mayor in Los Angeles 20 years ago. Okay, when you have one party rule, even if it's Republican one party rule or Democratic one party, if you just have one party rule for 20 years, no good. Especially when they get arrogant. When political parties get arrogant and they they're drunk with power. When political parties like the modern day Democratic Party do what they've done the past 8 years, they lose everything. And then you get New York, Los Angeles, they were more affordable 20 years ago. And then I'm not just talking about the natural pace of inflation. They were safer, more affordable. You could say that these cities were better cities, better run under the Republican, especially under Giuliani. Can you honestly say that if you live in New York that the Democratic mayors since Giuliani have done a better job? I don't know. I don't live in New York, so I love New York. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I just don't think that. I don't think it's the same. These are the same cities that they used to be, San Francisco included.
Look at what we saw in a lot of cities across the country, places like Chicago, where his margin was more than you would have expected. And I think what it proves is that the issue of immigration and crime that people were told didn't exist. Oh, you don't have a crime problem. It's fine. I think you saw a real reaction to that. And also in retrospect, when you look at these Senate wins, and some of them are still on the fence, there are places where they might have put money and dug in deeper to some of these other areas, even in some of these Senate races in these typically blue states. But the country is changing. I mean, that is what we learned last night in a big way.
And the Biden-Harris team, I think of policies and consequences. Yeah. Then that's what you're saying. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I was just thinking about what Brett was saying there, and we were talking about inauguration last segment here. I was on the west side of the Capitol for Biden's inauguration. It was the weirdest thing ever. It's January 2021. Everybody's sitting 10 feet apart from each other, scattered chairs about, a massive teleprompter. The
circles.
200 yards away. And in that teleprompter was his speech that talked consistently about unity in America. And now, how do you reflect back over the past 4 years? And how did he carry that mantle? I mean, we can argue probably not very effectively. And I think about Trump, right? Had this vote been a squeaker, what would that have been for his governing power, for a mandate?
Trump has single-handedly demolished the Democratic Party because Democrats, what they did to Bernie Sanders was terrible. What they did to Biden was nefarious, despicable. I'm not a fan. I'm not a voter. I don't think he's a great president. Actually, terrible president Biden was. But what they did to Biden was really evil. Democrats, what they did to Joe Biden was evil. You prop up a man, you use him as this vessel. You use him almost as if he was an object. You prop him up, you send him out there. He is the most popular American candidate for president of all time. And then one debate where you spent 4 years saying that don't believe your lying eyes, he's totally fine. One debate where he looks like a deer in the headlights and he's slurring his speech and he looks like Father Time. They didn't even put makeup on him. You could see that. That was purely choreographed in the most sinister manner. They wanted the world to see that Biden was not up to the task. Everybody with a functioning brain cell saw that 4 years ago, but that's another story. Then they replaced him after he had won a primary. That's infinitely worse than what they did to Bernie Sanders. Then they say Trump is bad, Trump is bad. Trump is the most, he's like a heroic individual surviving attempts on his life, making crowds laugh, talking. I mean, we had a great economy under Trump. We had a great foreign policy. The knock on him is his words. He never insulted journalists the way Biden did. He never called half the country garbage the way Biden did. We can go on forever. Biden has a whole list of things he said in 20 plus years. And I mean, Trump's words, let's say you could bottle them up, all the insults or whatever. Nothing compares to what President Obama and Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld did in terms of foreign policy. You judge somebody by their actions, not by their words. If somebody says, I love you, prove it. Prove it. Don't just say, I love you. Do you actually love the person? When Democrats say, well, we're presidential. Well, was it presidential to preside over 9% inflation? Oh, that's different. What about all the invasions? Oh, that's different. No, it's not. Biden is there not to be your friend, but to govern over the country. Trump is there not to be your friend, but to govern over the country. Who governed better? Obviously Trump. That's why he swept everything.
And the fact that it hasn't been electorally within the minority vote of African Americans and Hispanics, the fact that it is strengthens his hand, I do believe. And what do you think about that come January of 2025?
100%. First of all, I think it's just good for America that it's clean, that we're
Absolutely.
done, that, there is a thing, there is a definite. The fact that the vice president has not spoken is really quite something, I think. I think she should have spoken last night while she had the crowd. It may be in my hour at Special Report, 6 p.m. That's, we welcome it, but I just think it's so long. It's so long. But he has a mandate, Bill. He has 100%. He has a coalition that is different than any other Republican has ever had, and he has a mandate. He said promises made, promises kept last night. And I think, he's been there before, and he knows the levers to make the change.
I think also
Listen,
he has
maybe the 3 o'clock will get it, not the 6 o'clock.
I don't mean to compete.
Maybe she'll decide to come out early. But I just think about the border when I listen to you saying this, because we've seen many times when there has been a mandate that gets wasted. And we heard from Speaker Johnson, he doesn't want to waste that mandate. And I think the second time around, maybe having that 4 years break in the middle is an energizer in terms of very quick action.
I think that's super astute. And I'm not at all surprised that it's super astute. Loved being quarterback.
At an hour and a half.
Thank you
great.
so much.
Great work.
Really great. Really great.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
He not only has the momentum, okay, the Democrats have lost. By the way, who's going to defeat Vance? Pelosi? Harris again? Who's going to defeat Hillary Clinton? Who's going to defeat Vance? Vance is going to go 8 years.
And you were looking at the popular vote. He's still up and could finish up.
And part of it is because he did run up the totals in places I was looking at, even the rural counties in Pennsylvania. He was going to win them by significant double digits, but he won them that much more. I think running up the totals in Florida, which was a swing state not that long ago, over 1.1 million votes or so. Kaylee, right, your home state. And this is, look, I think that when the Democrats take a look at this candidacy, it's not going to be, did she have too much time, not enough time? She's just a flawed candidate. She doesn't speak well. She doesn't work hard. I'm not being mean or partisan. I don't know why the country would have rewarded this candidate with the big job when she couldn't make the case what she does as vice president that affects our lives in a positive way. She was given that opportunity. I personally would like to thank the women of The View tonight.
Yeah.
For asking this question, for having her on. Oprah, we see you.
The reason that Democrats don't want Biden or Harris speaking, whether it's a press conference and they, just, here and there have a choreographed interview at The View, but they really don't campaign like Trump campaigns. They're not going on YouTube channels like Trump. They're not going on Rogan. That would have helped Harris with the popular vote had she gone on Joe Rogan. But one reason is that you don't find Democrats like the people you see here wearing Make America Great Again hats, and they're not doing it because they love Trump. They're doing it because they love low inflation, low interest rates. They're doing it because they don't like endless wars. When Democrats say it's a cult, they don't realize why Republicans vote for Trump. Trump believes in building a wall. He believes in a better economy. He believes in limiting quagmires and stopping endless military quagmires and foreign policy that promotes peace deals. He renegotiates trade deals. When Democrats see people who wear "Make America Great Again" hats, they think of rhetoric. They think of belligerent and boorish rhetoric. But rhetoric, again, if you say "I love you," prove it. You judge a person by their actions. You judge a man and woman by their actions, not by their words. Trump presided over a great economy. His actions show that he loved the country. We had record low poverty with Trump, record highs in household median income. That's why they wear the "Make America Great Again" hat, because the economy was great. He brought home Americans from military conflict. He tried to end military conflict. Trump was the first person to step foot in North Korea and try to begin détente between North and South Korea. That's why people wear a Make America Great Again hat, not because of the apoplectic, hysterical belief that, oh my God, we're so morally superior as Democrats. And Democrats work. A lot of Democratic voters have this Pavlovian response to words, to hats, to, they'll hear Trump and they get this it's this visceral reaction to a hat, a red hat. But they don't think about inflation or interest rates.
And so on and so forth. People who thought they were doing her a favor because they made her something she's not. It's the opposite for Trump. They make him something he's not. Take that one word, take that one line, take that cherry pick this, that, the other. You never get the essence. I go back, does everybody remember 5 years ago, Laurel and Yanny, or what color dress? You hear Laurel, I hear Yanny. You see a blue dress, I see a yellow dress. We were all looking at the same thing. That's the way Donald Trump is in this country. There are people who look exactly the same person and they see two different vistas. I think it's time that we try to see one. Look, I don't know who said it earlier. I'm a little worried about the reaction of the Democrats and the Kamala people here. I'm very worried. I think that there are a lot of unhinged people across the political spectrum. And we gave very little quarter to how many anti-Kamala voters are out there. I don't want to hear the words racism and sexism. It's eyesight and hearing. We were listening and watching her. And I'm very worried that we've not talked a lot about how violent people may be and angry because she lost.
Right.
I'm afraid of that.
When Trump talks about a military response to chaos and mayhem, Democrats say, despot. When you had an unarmed woman whose life was taken that day in January, Democrats say, well, it was an appropriate response. So there's no rhyme or reason. It's just so many Democrats will gravitate towards whatever is politically expedient.
Right. I mean, I can just...
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey,
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back tomorrow at around, I would say, I'll try to do probably around 11:30. So I'll do probably 11 or 11:30. So hit subscribe. If you're new to this channel, thank you for joining. Hit subscribe. Paul Bartlett, thank you so much. Thank you, Paul. And to my viewers around the world, thank you. Hey, great, beautiful, amazing day, everybody. And I mean, the future is bright. He's already turned the tables on them, and this is just the beginning. The modern Democratic Party it's not going to be the same moving forward because of Trump. Hit subscribe.